My god! Where are we? It's so dark in here. And it's like damp. Are we in a tin mine?
I think you're thinking about yesterday's movie, The Tin Mine?
The Tin Mine, the movie in Thai that came out in 2005, directed by Jila Malikun.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's up with it?
Well, today's episode does happen to be about the tin mine, so let's get into it, huh? Today's guest is Phukao. Hi
Hi everyone.
Welcome.
How's it going? You guys be sure to tell me how it's going down in the comments below.
Yes.
My name is Phukao, and I'm coming here as a guest because I happened to watch this movie, and I thought it was pretty nice. So Laura asked if I can be. I actually asked if I can be. So now I'm here. We're going to be talking about the Tin Mine. So Laura, what's up with this movie?
The Tin Mine was released in 2005, but is actually set in the 1950s. It is based on a series of autobiographical short stories by, I believe it's Adin Panjapan. I hope my pronunciation is correct.
That's very
yes.
close.
Okay, I tried. Please forgive me. Yes, he wrote a bunch of short stories back in the 60s, I believe, recounting his own experience in a tin mine back in the 50s. The movie talks about how he dropped out of university. Well, actually didn't drop out, he got expelled, and having no money and no choice, he goes down to the south and finds a job in a tin mine.
So this movie particularly kind of like is based off of a series of short story that the guy wrote to. Is it a magazine or is it newspaper?
I believe he wrote for newspapers back at the time, but after a while his short stories were compiled into a book.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So like these kind of things are like is still around actually. These short stories that's been published to some kind of like magazines. When I was younger, there's this comics called Khai Ho Ro and Maha Sanuk, and these would have short stories in them, and people like I think like kids buy the comic to read the comics, but then adults buy it to actually read the short stories. So that's pretty cool that like short stories actually have been a thing that has been going on. I think that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
So about this movie, Ajin Panjaban with the Bobai Mai.
Right.
Yeah, with this guy, I think it's since it is based off of short stories, it doesn't actually have like that coherence of a storyline, right, throughout the movie.
Right, yeah.
That was like the first thing I noticed. It's just like stories, like events after events after events after events. Like the coherent thing that's throughout this movie that we can see, it's actually the development of the character himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think the point of the whole movie wasn't really, your traditional hero has a problem and goes on to a journey to fix that problem. I think, although initially he does have a problem because he literally got kicked out of university, throughout the movie you don't really see him trying to get back into university. Maybe he kind of just goes off and finds a new path, and instead
what was even his Sorry, go on.
Well, his initial goal, actually, now that you pointed out, he did have a goal. And his goal was to go work in the mine for 3 to 4 years to earn money to go marry his girlfriend. And within not even 2 years, the girlfriend sent him a letter to invite him to her marriage. So that really didn't work out. And right, so after that part in the movie, which is like a third in, Ajin's like the point of the movie kind of shifts, and it's no longer trying to reach some kind of material goal, I guess, like clear-cut goal, but at this point it's just him trying to figure out life through the University of the Tin Mine. Which actually is the Thai title, isn't it?
Right, yeah, it's the มหาลัยเมืองแร่
Right, yeah.
Right. I think it's kind of cool in a way that like the movie is made to honor the writer, you know. Like sure, right? It's made with like a specific like maybe a group of people that they know about this short story, but like I feel like it really works as a way to archive the short story of Ajin without like altering the story of any kind. It's just like displaying the story for what it is, and like, you know, they didn't change the story to like make it. Yeah, they didn't change the story to up the wow factor, I guess, if you can call it that.
Right, yeah. Actually, you reminded me of an interview with Ajin himself. So, like the real life character behind these stories, right? In an interview with the director and Ajin, initially the director approached Ajin to ask him if he could turn his stories into a movie. And at the beginning, Ajin didn't want to participate in this project because in his mind, he thought they were just going to make some other action movie, and he didn't want his stories to be turned into that because that wasn't really the point of it. And the director actually said, I mean, we don't need big cars, we don't need chase scenes to make an action movie, we just need 7 days in the rain, and that's an action movie. And I mean, that's what is just people struggling.
That's true, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I guess that makes a lot of sense. Like, yeah, I think they did well with like they did well with conserving the feel of the movie, and even yeah, so that's pretty nice that they go ask the artist to like before they actually go in and do stuff with it. That's pretty nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, he was pretty involved with the whole project because at the end of the movie, they do actually show him and Ai Khai as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really watch a lot of movies like at all.
Right.
I think like if I have to say how much I watch movies versus like other media like video games or music, like I spend maybe like 10% on movies of my what you call it, free time, I guess.
Yeah.
Leisure. Yeah, 10% of my leisure comes from movie, which is like a very little amount, right? But like this kind of movie was very lighthearted.
It was.
It's heartwarming.
It really was.
And it was very casual to watch.
Yeah.
Like the fact that it works in chapters or a short story, it's like you can just like pause it and then come back to it like 5 minutes, 10 minutes later. Like the excitement is not that like there's no excitement, right? But like the joy of watching this movie floats around, and it doesn't rely on adrenaline.
Yeah.
To enjoy, right? I think that was it's pretty good. No drama. Well, I guess there is some drama, but like it's so short.
Yeah.
It did play a significant part of the movie, and especially the comedy is well done. I like that.
It really was. One of the biggest worry I have when watching Thai movies is their tendency to use kind of corny humor, like just the same gags over and over, and especially with like drama movies, the way they incorporate comedy is often quite almost off-putting. Like it misses the point, and
Yeah.
what's supposed to be
Like it doesn't fit.
right. Yeah, like the overall result that should be like heartwarming, it just turns out to be like overdone comedy and no drama left in the mix because you just kind of forget, like you don't feel like crying anymore because you're cringing so hard at the humor. But I think
Right,
in
yeah.
this movie, they really balanced it out quite well. Like they did have some, I guess, classic gags, but they came off as like, oh, that's the stuff I saw in my childhood, and it felt really nice. Even though, of course, we weren't even alive in that generation, but yeah, I thought it was really, really well done.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever seen the pure comedy movies of Thailand? Like หอแต๋วแตกไม่รู้กี่ภาค
Yes.
However, like all they do is just like เป็นตุ๊ด and then like they put in sound effects.
That's
And then
true.
they like and then the footage is like the cast running around and then they speed up the footage.
Yes.
And then they put in like the little running sound effect like and then they go around and like, huh? มีควายเหรอ Ah! Everyone screams
Yeah.
and then like things like that. And like and to like this is the kind of that's the kind of movie that like it's so bad that it's so good to watch just because of how bad it is.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to name other movies that might be in this genre, but like it's in there.
Yeah.
And I hate the director for it because like come on man, you can't just crank out 10 movies like this in a row, right? That's
Oh, yeah.
like that's impossible, right? But I guess
Yeah.
it's not. I guess it's not impossible because he did it. Yeah, so I'm really glad that this isn't that kind of comedy movie, and that the comedy kind of plays itself in the story. Like it lightens up a scene, and like it's very heartwarming kind of gag. Yeah, particularly one particular scene that I really like is the scene where Ajin and Ai Khai was gonna go move some marks for the map for the boss, right? But then the mark was the reason they have to move the marks is because the mark was moved by the man, like an old man that owns the place.
Right, the landlord,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, the landlord, yeah. But then the old man was like, I'm gonna fucking kill you, don't come near my place kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But then Arjun boss heard about this and he gave Arjun a gun, right? Just like, oof, the big boy. That he go in, he points a gun at the old man and it's like, hey man, I'm gonna shoot you, alright? And like if you don't let me move the mark, I'm gonna shoot you. And the old man's like, yeah, you're gonna have to get past me first, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So he shot a blank, right? The old man fell down. There's like a 5 seconds pause.
Yeah.
The old man pulls out his what you call it?
Amulet?
Amulet.
Yeah.
He pulls out his amulet and goes, wow, this thing it's soศักดิ์สิทธิ์, right? It's so like
Sacred?
it's so sacred.
Yeah.
Right? And like Ai Khai just like walks up to him and he goes like, wow, it really is very sacred. Can I see it? And then the old guy just like, yeah, sure, here it is. Look at that. It's very sacred. And then Ai Khai just like, he took it off shoot him now. It's like, man.
Yeah.
Don't, I mean, and like Ajin didn't, of course. Ajin said that like, well, the reason that the bullet didn't come out is because there was no bullet, dumbass. It was a blank. And he pulls out a real bullet from his pocket, and then the old man fled away. But like the fact that Ai Kai like went up to the guy holding a machete in his hand, just like it's so funny to me that like he was so focused on the amulet that he didn't even care that it was taken away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think comedy works well in this kind of movie, and I can imagine it like it reads pretty well too when it was in the short story format.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any scenes that have like comedy in them that you remember?
Oh jeez. The one scene that comes to mind right now is not comedy. Oh my god. It's a pretty dramatic scene actually. And now that I think about it, it's like one of the rare scenes where like there are touchy topics being I guess explored. But it was a scene where Ajin is in the local, I guess, bar slash tea shop. Well, like slash whatever shop, just a local everything shop.
Yeah.
And they're just sitting and drinking like every evening, with Eichai as well, and some forest dweller comes in looking for medicine, and he asks the shopkeeper, and the shopkeeper with a smirk on his face goes to the back of the store. He's like, all right, I'll be here, I'll be back in a minute. And everyone's like, oh, okay, cool, like he's just getting medicine, whatever. And he comes back with a bunch of like really old medicine.
Well, it wasn't medicine, it was yahom.
Oh, right.
It's like sambak,
Oh, right. Okay. So that's even worse. Yeah.
Yeah, that's even worse. Yeah.
But yeah, and he thinks like, oh well, it's expired anyways. I mean, he just wants something, and in exchange, I can get some vegetables. And business is business. There's no rules in business. And he kind of just gives it away. And of course, the forest dweller doesn't know anything, so he doesn't bat an eye. Takes it away. He's even thankful for it. And I mean, the way the scene is laid out, at first you feel like it's quite wrong, but it doesn't quite hit until like afterwards when the forest dweller comes back and he says like, wow, that was amazing. Like my friend over here, like they got better. Like we gave him the medicine and everything. It's like, oh, okay. I guess it was fine. Until he says that his friend drank it. Yeah. And then the shopkeeper just loses it. He's like, what the hell have I done? And I thought that scene was pretty interesting. So again, apologies, not comedy. Taking a dark turn here, but
I mean,
I guess
I really thought that scene was gotta be comedy.
Yeah, right, because a lot of the scenes are set out like that, right? I mean, you take the scene with that you just mentioned, with the landlord, and I mean, they're like joking about death. Like they're literally like, man, I'm a freaking shoot you, right? But it turns into comedy, and this is like, okay, haha, forest dweller comes in, I guess that's funny. Yeah. But then no, it just shows like Thailand's view on indigenous people. And I guess as well, like you look at the whole movie, and it's also a look on like maybe not as indigenous, but just people from like small like villages and things, especially at the time, like at the beginning of the movie, they show that this place is not even on the map. Like they're not acknowledged by the rest of the country. And then you look at the scene in particular, and like forest dwellers, they're nothing, they're nobodies. To the point where the shopkeeper doesn't even care that he could have killed this guy that he didn't even know. But yeah, I thought there was like a detail in the movie that was quite interesting. Like it's telling about Thai society.
Right,
and,
but he he did realize this at the end of that small arc
Yeah.
that the guy, like, a guy's gonna die because of his hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think it probably comments more on about how, like, business can lead, or, like, I guess can blind someone's way of thinking, like,
Right.
someone's rationality,
Yeah.
where, like, where later the consequence hits, you know.
Mm-hmm. What seems like an inconsequential choice can turn out to
can
be
lead into a consequence.
Mm-hmm.
Consequential, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. Me personally, I'm not sure if it was commenting on about Thailand's view on indigenous tribe, but still, I think it has, like, the movie also has, like, some touchy topics that's related to those kind of things too, where basically, right, this mine is not owned by Thai people.
Yeah.
It's owned by an Australian guy,
Mm-hmm.
like an ex-military man, right?
Yeah.
And, like, the fact is, the fact that in a lot of scenes he's shown having stuff that the Thai people don't have.
Right.
You know, like, he goes out to parties. Like, he has a camera. He has a vinyl player.
I mean, he has a whole house.
Yeah, he has a.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, he has a whole house. He has a car.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that makes me think of, like, well, like, foreign businessman comes into Thailand using Thai resources to make them richer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that brings up, like, I'm not sure what this movie's stance is, because I don't think there is one. I think this movie is just presenting, like, you know, the story for what the story is, right? It doesn't actually.
Right, yeah, it was quite confusing at the beginning because I remember thinking, like, towards the first third of the movie, that it was, like, kind of somewhat celebrating, like.
Yeah.
Not
it's so
just
weird
white, but
because,
like foreigners in Thailand, and it felt like a weird stance to have, especially for a Thai movie, right? That, like,
right.
like all like hail the colonizers, like what? That felt a bit weird. But then in the middle of the movie, there's that part where the people at the mine start speaking about the foreigners and how it's like, hey, like, Ajin, we're taking tin because we can't just let the white man have all the money. We're getting underpaid. This man's getting rich off of us. Like, we earn the right to get our tin back. But then, right as they, like, put forward this message, and then you're like, oh, okay. Then this movie is, like, kind of trying to defend the rights of the Thai people, or, like, the owners of the land, right?
Right.
But then it turns out it was, like, a kind of a test. So, like, everyone was on it. So was Sam, the boss.
Right.
So I guess you could sum it up as, like, this is Ajin's, like, point of view. This is his own experience. He's not speaking for everyone and not trying to like put through a message, but this was his experience of his foreign boss.
Yeah.
And I think that's just what it is. But anyways, you were gonna say something before?
No, that's exactly it. Like, this is just Ajin's view.
Right.
Right? Like, he's not commenting on what it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And neither does the director of the movie, right?
Yeah.
But, like, it really makes me think if this movie is supposed to have a sub message.
Right.
What do you call it?
Subtext?
Underlying message. Subtext.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it really weighs in on, like, on that, because we've seen, like, well, Ajin like talk about how this movie, this tin mine business is, like, bringing in the equipments of the white man, of the foreigners, and and we're using his equipments, and we're using his technology, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that also reminds me of like the, what do you call it? The argument about like, well, do we need colonization? Because if we don't have colonization, we can conserve cultures better. But what about the development of science, for example?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like medicine, for example.
Yeah.
Like I'm quite sure that like it would take probably 100 years more, or it would be 100 years late for, I guess, us to like figure out how to do medicine if we didn't have influence from colonization period.
Yeah.
You know, and like this movies remind me heavily about that, because it's filled with like comparison of like, well, the life of the normal southern people,
Yeah.
and the life of the colonizer.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that was pretty interesting to be reminded of during the course of a very lighthearted movie.
Right.
Yeah, so that's like I think it's still interesting how this movie can brings up very, very dense, I think very deep conversation, but still are very lighthearted.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I think it's also how I've been kind of thinking about this while you were talking, but it's also how like this took place in the middle of like the previous century, right? Like none of us were born. This is like
Yeah.
our grandparents' like childhood even, and it's kind of what formed like the adults of today, like the 50, 60-year-olds out there, and what's like what goes around in like all adult conversations, right? You talk about colonialism, you talk about
Right,
the
yeah.
war, you talk about I don't know, the economy, I guess, because we're talking about a tin mine, right? Surrounding money, but like all those topics and things, like it's things that affected the previous generations that are now like the older adults slash like almost seniors of like today's like society.
Right.
So I guess that's
like
why
the society runners.
yeah, like although it's a coming of age movie, like I still think at its core it is just a coming of age story. It does touch on like those topics because that's just how life was back then, and the way we
Right.
see it now, it's become like, oh, like all these serious topics, but like that was the youth of back then. Now our youth is like a different experience. So, to wrap up this episode of 2.5 brain cells, I think this was a pretty refreshing take on the coming of age genre. I mean, usually when you think of coming of age, you think of a high school story or maybe college and things, your first job, but it's usually quite clear cut. And I mean, it's also the fact that this is a period movie, but it's quite refreshing to see a different type of story. Someone who, instead of going to university like everyone, which was already the norm back then, instead takes on an alternative journey, I guess, which goes to show that life doesn't have to look the same for everyone. And I think that's one of the core lessons in this movie, that like even though he didn't go to university, he's still becoming a man, because like that's the convention, right? That going to university is what makes you a man, is what makes you into an adult. And if you don't go to university, then you're kind of lesser. And
Right.
I guess like that's the lesson of this story, is that he went to work in the South, and although he didn't earn anything in the end, because he threw it all on alcohol, he learn valuable lessons. And ultimately, I mean, that's what got his career. So I think it was a pretty beautiful story on how your life path doesn't have to be like everyone's. You can choose to go
Right.
to university just like you can choose to, I don't know, become a baker or go train somewhere, but it doesn't have to be the same, and that's okay.
That was pretty good. I love watching the tin mine.
Me too.
Now I think, how do we get out of the tin mine though that we're in? Like the literal tin mine that we're in. I think we kind of forgot about it.
I think you just have to close your eyes.
Oh,
and
I found the exit. Never mind. Yeah, okay, I got it. No problem. I found the exit. All right, see you later.
Thank you. Bye.